Bird, 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 bird. Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him. Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Honey Dog Podcast. It is the 14th of February, and you know what that means? It's Valentine's Day. Well, it's a Hallmark holiday. Do with it as you please. I'm down at my house in Beer Mountain, getting this thing ready to renovate a little bit, and something kind of hit me when I was dry. I hadn't been on the road in a long time. I had a lot of time to think, and I was listening to Ty Webster's podcast, and he said it was about social media and hot spotting, and he went on a few tangents, but he addressed a few things about people who comment, and I've got a little burr under my saddle, and I've sat on this for about 6 months. I'm not going to go into all the details, but what made me bring this back up was the dog that everybody was talking about, and me, but mostly my dog, a lot of it about my dogs. I'm amazed at how people would say something on Facebook or Instagram that they would not have the balls to say to you in the face. You couldn't get them. They'd probably piss themselves if you said, say that to my face. Like if you could take that person from that page, knock on their door and say, would you say that again? They wouldn't do it because normal, rational human beings don't just walk around insulting each other. But for some reason on social media, and I've been very blessed, I get my detractors. Of course. I mean, anytime you do something long enough and put enough content out there, someone's not going to like what you said or what you did. Or they're going to say, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. But this is all on the heels of Bravo, my 12-year, 3-month-old Bracco, my oldest boy, the one that's been on television many times, been on The Flush, been on Meat Eater 3 times. And he's a very special dog to me. Like all of your dogs are to you. Now, trust me, I've had dogs that weren't special to me. And you know what I'm talking about. There are some dogs that you would just be like, oh, you're a juvenile delinquent, and we're never going to get this. But most of us love our dogs. And most of us wouldn't just say something to a stranger to insult their dog. But in the events that happened 3 weeks ago when Bravo died, took a walk out on a Sunday morning, let himself out of the kennel, took a little walk around the back, boom, dead, dragged his big butt all the way back to the garage and tucked him in and put him around a blanket and said goodbye to him. It made me think about something that happened about 6 months ago. So this isn't about what happened. This is about what people do and say on social media. Now, I will tell you, the fellow who started this is actually, I hate using the word friend, because I would not consider this guy a friend, but that's how Facebook, on Instagram, you're a follower, on Facebook, you're a friend. I think they should have put on Facebook, it shouldn't have been Facebook friend. It should have just been Facebook stranger. That would be a lot more accurate. But this fella, Tyler Sladen, is technically a friend of mine on Facebook. We don't know each other. I had no idea who he is. When you're starting Facebook, somebody's got a picture of a bird dog and they send you a friend request. Oh, yeah, you hit them back and you see their posts and they see, most of it's pretty fun. I've spent many hours, some nights when I can't sleep, looking at Instagram or Facebook and seeing who got how many birds and whose dogs passed the test. I find it very enjoyable. And I don't get a lot of negative stuff. But there was an incident that got this fella all wound up. I apparently, that's not even important. It's not even important what it was. You can go back and read it if you want to. I think it's from August. But anyway, Tyler was upset with me for not apologizing to someone that he was not the mediator. He was not hired by this person. This person didn't even know that he was going basically behind. I wouldn't know. It was not, the word's not behind. He took it upon himself to insist that I apologize to someone. And irrelevant to whether I did or not, he would have no idea. He decided to go on a little Facebook war. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up is it was a lot about my dogs. And the ones that most people talked about was Bravo, okay? And when I read those, I'd never had that happen. And at that point, I'm in my 8th year of podcast. And at that point, at 7.5 years or so, God, I've had a couple comments about stuff, but nothing had even raised my dander. And what's amazing is how someone who's defending someone's feelings or someone's dogs has no problem insulting someone else's dogs that they've actually never seen with their eyes. They've never been in the same room with. They've never been in the same field with. Now, in my dog's case, they might have seen him on television. But they don't know me. They listen to me on a podcast. And anyway, so part of this meme was, and we've suffered through 2 episodes of Meat Eater with the worst representation of bird dogs ever. I'm paraphrasing because it's one of them things you kind of memorize, but you don't have it right. But then what really happened was all these people, once Tyler put this up on his Facebook page, all of his friends started saying, what, who, what, where? And it turned into something that comment after comment, I was like, wow, I don't even know you. And you're talking about my behavior, but your behavior is exactly the same thing that you're accusing me of, that you are accusing me of something that, not accusing me, you're judging something that you were not present for. So then all of a sudden everybody just starts getting in their basement and saying, oh, yeah. It was, so these are a couple of the comments, It was just unprofessional and rude, and when it's pointed out to him that he could have handled it, but instead he got defensive. Embarrassing. That was Lane Jewell. I don't know who Lane Jewell is, but I'm sure Lane does. Nick Yashko. I don't know Nick either. I mean, we might be friends on Facebook, or he's friends with Tyler, as I assume some of these people are here, or they're obviously all friends with Tyler. I never could get through a whole episode of that podcast. It's so bad. Sorry, Nick. I didn't ask you to. Never did. Josh Sutherland wrote, his dogs were terrible. Josh, I don't think Josh and I have ever hunted together. Tyler wrote back in here, I've never seen a more disrespectful tribute to sage grouse hunting. I did an episode with Steve Ranella on Meat Eater, sage grouse hunting. I don't know how that was disrespectful. I guess I'm going to have to rewatch it, Tyler. I don't know. But his words are, I've never seen a more disrespectful tribute. I wasn't there to do a tribunal. I wasn't there to do a tribute to the sage grouse. I was there to hunt them. I'd love to know what was disrespectful about my sage grouse hunt. I don't know. I'm just sharing this with you. And again, I'm doing this because I cannot believe that people that don't know you would and don't have any actual skin in the game can just get so skewed with social media. So then Tyler wrote again, worst portrayal possible. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is Ethan. Ethan Kirkpatrick wrote back to Tyler, worst portrayal possible. My cousin showed me this episode like, hey, man, you'll love it. I couldn't believe what I was watching. with a clown emoji. Oh, I don't remember having any clown makeup on, but, I do act like a clown. Elizabeth Ann Little. I think it's Little, Lytle, Elizabeth Ann. Again, for friends on Facebook, it certainly isn't somebody I've hung out with. Writes to Tyler Sladen, it was the worst display of general bird hunting I've ever seen. I think my pregnant butt could have covered the field better than those dogs did. Now, Elizabeth, I don't know. I don't know what your pregnant butt looks like out in the field, but I'll bet you it couldn't run with any dog, even one of mine. But it's interesting that you think that your pregnant butt could cover the field better than my dog's. Because if you ever watch these episodes, there's just snippets. The cameramen that are walking behind each person are following you to see if you're going to take a shot, to catch your conversation. They pan down at the dogs once in a while. You see them in and out. I'm not quite sure. Actually, I wouldn't mind if she wrote me and would explain to me how her pregnant butt could have covered the field better. Because I can tell you this much. There was no pregnant woman in the field hunting sage grouse. There wasn't. Ben Westbrook wrote, his dogs perform so poorly in the Meat Eater episodes, it's really hard to watch. I'm like, really? We've done a dove hunting episode, a blue grouse hunting episode, and a sage grouse hunting episode. The only thing you really get to see is my dogs retrieving. I've taken all my dogs through the trained retrieve. They were natural retrievers, but I always think that's a good thing to do with most dogs. And I can't, Ben, I would love you to expound on how my dogs perform so poorly in the Meat Eater episodes. I don't love to know what you meant by that. I'd love to talk to you about it. But again, you're I don't know what you're mad at. Audrey writes, Audrey Hisa, Hsia. Anyway, I have to say that the podcast is not very interesting to me anymore. There have been a few episodes I enjoyed spotlighting specific breeds, but overall, it's quite underwhelming. I can't believe he spends 12 plus minutes at the beginning just doing ads. Well, Audrey, if you did like those podcasts and you did want to go back and revisit, I just suggest you hit the skip button. Let's see. Might be 24 times. Only take you about 10 seconds. Or there's actually a little bar on there, and you just kind of drag. You get used to it. You can figure out how 5 or 10 minutes you can skip through. I don't believe when I start my episode that it's mandatory that you listen to the ads, and I have fun doing the ads. I just ad-lib them. I don't. Yeah, that's just the way. Sorry, Audrey. 2 or 3 other people in the world can't believe I do it either, but some reason my sponsors don't mind, and 70,000 other people don't mind. Anyway. Hey, this is almost a compliment. Almost. This is Tyler to Audrey. There's been a handful of great episodes over the year, but his response to multiple messages asking him to apologize kind of sealed the deal. So, whatever. I like Scott Johnson's message. Guess I'll have to listen to this so I have another reason to disengage from the upland scene even further. Good for you, Scott. You ought to disengage from the social media side of Upland World. Ben Smith. Ben Smith wrote, "Is this real life? ? The first 10 minutes plus is horrible advertising gibberish. And then at 12 minutes, he mocks a listener for calling him out about his horrible podcast." I remember that. Somebody wrote me a email, and he said I was disrespecting my guest by drinking and clicking my lighter. Well, anybody who gets on my podcast knows I drink and I smoke. I don't know. I don't put on any false. I don't put on any false pretenses. I do what and he adds, "I'm sad I clicked it, and he probably made 3 cents." No, Ben, I did not make 3 cents. When you listen to it, Ben, it's totally free for you. Here's another one from Tyler. I like this one. Good. This is a good one, Tyler. I think he doesn't run his cocker with the other dogs because it runs bigger. See, this is another Bracco joke, like a Spinoni joke, like a Gordon Setter joke, like a Weimaraner joke. See, this is what people who have not been in the dog world long enough do. They know everything, okay? Yeah, I like that. He doesn't run his cocker with his other dogs because it runs bigger. Wow, zing. Oh, my. Jonathan Salisky wrote, I've only listened to his interview with Lisa Williams, the Pennsylvania Game Commissioner's rough grouse biologist. I recommend it if you give a shit about grouse hunting, and especially those two things east of the Mississippi. Thank you, Jonathan. And then somebody wrote back, Andrew wrote back to Jonathan, totally off topic of the podcast, but Lisa is a gem and she does amazing work. They're right. She is and she does. In fact, this person interviewed her from his old newspaper. Yeah. Here's a little thing from Tyler. I'm not here to promote some pillar of moral absolutism. I fuck up plenty, in parentheses. But when confronted about being out of line and you double down on it, you deserve to be called out on it. None of these people were... The issue they're talking about, they have no background in. It's like party talk. You heard something, you passed it along, and pretty soon, the whole sentence gets... I don't owe anybody that direct message me on behalf of somebody else to do something for somebody else. Lainey Jewell, she's back on. Tyler Sladen, word, WOORD. I guess that's better than just saying word. I guess that's kind of like, what does that mean? Word. I don't get it. I'm too old for that stuff. Bridget Ehrlich writes, this kind of stuff scares me with entering the dog world. Well, it should scare you, Bridget. Here's a nice response from Tyler to Bridget. So Bridget is just entering the dog world. Doesn't know me, obviously is a friend of Tyler's because she wouldn't be on this string if she didn't see this thing going on. And it's Tyler writing to Bridget. Bridget, remember what she wrote? This kind of stuff scares me with entering the dog world. Bridget, it shouldn't. Plenty are sticking up for said person. The dude's just a drunk asshole. Shit, I didn't know that. I've been drunk, and I have an asshole like everybody else. But that's good. So you don't know me personally, but you're telling Bridget that the dude's just a drunk asshole. And then Bridget, you're not innocent either. Bridget writes, he sounds like one for sure. Really? I didn't even know she listened to the podcast. She did. Look at this. I'm 17 minutes into this podcast. It's been advertising sponsorships and shitting on people. Really? I had no idea I was shatting on people. Really didn't. And then Tyler writes back, yup. Then Ryan writes, I have a 3-hour drive. I'll have to listen soon. And then Bridget writes, if you'd have handled that dog in the, I wouldn't have been listening. It wouldn't have been listening to you as opposed to, she's not putting her sentence structure together. If I read it, it makes me sound less educated than I am coming from Chicago Public Schools. And then Tyler, because Tyler really hates my dogs. Obviously hates my dogs. Hates Braccos. So he writes back, him and Bridget are starting to make a contact here, which, maybe could be something else there. Who knows? Tyler writes back to Bridget, yeah. Now go watch the episode where they hunt sage grouse and tell me if those dogs look good. Again, they're only in there for a few seconds at a time. Just boom. And there's, I don't know. Sorry you hate good old Bravo so much, because I loved him. Bridget said she could only find a sooty grouse one. And then Lauren writes, wow. Jennifer Wapinski. I mean, we're kind of like in the same realm. We're podcasters, and she jumped in. I'm going to leave that out of there. I don't have anything against Jennifer, but I'm just surprised at how people jump in when they know you. And a lot of people jumped in. But I just love the fact that people who have never hunted with your dog see it on television or see something you do or listen to something you say, get so wound up. And it just shows me that they literally cannot make it. You could not make it on a construction site. If you're that thin-skinned, you could not make it for the first week, because you just learn to all get along. You learn what you can say. You learn what you can't say. And you learn who you can say it to. But these people just blurt it out. They don't care. And they don't care. They're worried about me hurting someone's feelings. But their reaction to that is to hurt my feelings and tell me how bad my dog was and how terrible they were and how it was the worst representation of sage grouse hunting they've ever seen. I just cannot believe that that's what hunting has turned into. I really have a hard time believing it. It saddens me. It really does. I don't know what else to say, but, I can tell you, Tyler, and everybody who's your friends who hate me and hate my dogs, Bravo's gone now, okay? And there's an old saying back in the day, don't speak ill of the dead, okay? It's just a saying. And, that's it. I just want to do a little bit of, that was a little bit for me, like I said, I don't get, almost in my 8th year, I think this is the first time a whole bunch of people just felt like they needed to give me a spanking. And, they did. I just wanted to share that with the other 70, what would it be? The other 69,937 people that listen to Don't Write and don't follow Tyler on Facebook and aren't up to date with everything he does in his life, because he's perfect. Oh, he's perfect. So you want to hear a little bit more about this? Come on to the Hunting Dog Podcast Talk. I mean, you know what that is. But that's another level. That's another level. This is just a polite way of saying, you know what? Don't insult people or their dogs. Okay? Don't. Unless you know them, unless you've been with them, unless you've spent time with them, you have no right in the world to insult someone and their dog, because you haven't seen it. You haven't been there. You don't know. So here's to you, Bravo. Even if Tyler and his friends thought you were the worst representation of dogs that they've ever seen, I still love you. I always will. And I'll never forget you.